Listen, you guys know that it has been a big day at the Scene Vault podcast on the Twitter feed. You guys know about the deals that have been made, so that's a pretty big deal. But also the fact that we have Ken Schrader here on the Zoomcast tonight. I really appreciate him being willing to do this. You guys know his resume as good, if not better, than I do. He won several cup races with Hendrick Motorsports. He was a multi-time Daytona 500 pole sitter, and he is an all-around good guy, and he's still racing to this day. I think in the dictionary next to the definition of racer, there is a picture of Ken Schrader. So, Ken, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having us on. I didn't know if I was going to figure out how to be able to do it until you told me Randy LaJoie figured it out. Then
it became a challenge at that point. So yeah, listen, I threw that out there on purpose because I knew they'd light a fire under you.
It worked.
All right. Ken, basically what we do is we just have at it with questions and everything. And again, if you guys have any questions, let me know over on the group chat, and I'll get to you as quickly as I can. I know that there's probably going to be a lot of questions for Ken tonight. So if you can possibly keep it down to just one question, I would appreciate that so we can get to everybody. So it looks like the first question that we have is from Brian Hallman. So, Brian, go ahead. Brian Hallman. Brian? I can see you. I can't hear you. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah,
I can.
Yes.
All right. Okay. All right. Brian, going once, going twice. All right. Listen, we're going to go on to the next one, and we will go with Steve Waite. Steve Waite, you can't have the first question.
Why not?
Steve, fire away.
I know this guy pretty well, but the question I want to ask him has nothing to do with us being neighbors. Ken, I know that you race continuously throughout an entire season. Now, given what's happened with this virus, I'm pretty sure that where you were supposed to race over the first 2 months of this year has not happened. Is that correct? And if so, what are you doing?
Well, I got my shoulder operated on Thanksgiving, right at Thanksgiving, and I couldn't do anything till the middle of March. So I was all ready to go middle of March, and that's when the world shut down. So we kind of just kept working in the shop, and we started the last weekend of April. We went to Jefferson, South Dakota, and we've raced every weekend since then, except one weekend when it got rained out. We've been to Minnesota and I don't know where else. Oklahoma, Memphis, Missouri, someplace else, Springfield, Missouri, Wheatland last night, but we've been all over.
Good night. Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And then our track in St. Louis, Federated Outparks Raceway, they started, I think, the last weekend of April, and they've been running every weekend too. So we're pretty fortunate right here. Missouri's opened up some, in the last month. I think we can run at 25% capacity right now. So we're hitting it.
All right, great.
Okay, our next question will be from Bob Ellis. Bob, go ahead. Okay, Bob is muted for some reason.
There we go. Thanks,
Hi.
Rick.
Go ahead.
My question is in 1995, you were driving for Hendrick, and you were at Talladega, and you got airborne after contact with your teammate, Jeff. What was the dynamic after everybody found out you were okay? And because you went on the radio and talked to Jeff, and at that time, that was kind of unprecedented, at least from the fan point of view. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes. So how did that work? Did somebody from Jeff's team say, "Hey, can you talk to him," or what?
It's kind of funny, way everything happened. First off, there was like 10 of us in the infield care center, and I knew Jeff hit me and started it, and Rick's in there, and everybody's okay. I just bruised up a little bit. And I asked Rick, so who hit me? He said, I don't know, I'll check. And Labonte's over there, a couple stretchers over. Said, Jeff hit you. And Jeff was pretty tore up on the radio. And Rick asked me if I'd talk to him on the radio. I mean, Jeff was a great teammate. And he bumped me. And, it turned out to be a big deal. He didn't mean to. He sure didn't mean to turn me over, and it wasn't. It just happened. So we talked to him. I mean, it made the team better. The funny part was Chocolate Myers had Childress the next day. They're all there at break at lunchtime, and they were all talking about, because they were scanning Jeff on the radio, about how sorry they felt for Jeff because he was just tore up. And Chocolate told the guys, he said, I don't know, I felt a little bit sorry for Schrader. He was the one bouncing through the air. So I told him, as soon as that thing took off, I grabbed the bottom of that steering wheel and said a little prayer. I said, Dear God, please don't let this emotionally scar Jeff. So, hey.
Oh, that's good.
Well,
that's
if it's
good.
any consolation, Brian Hallman's picture of that made for a heck of a cover on the next week's Winston Cup scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
We never did find the hood. We never got the hood back. Never made it back to a pit.
Well, it probably
has that
landed
somewhere.
in Birmingham.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Ken. I appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
All right. Our next question comes from Hallie Emery. Go ahead, Hallie.
Thank you, Rick. Ken, in your rookie season of '85, when you came from the dirt and USAC ranks and so forth, what tracks were the easiest for you to adapt to, and which tracks were the hardest for you to adapt?
I think the hardest for me was Michigan, and I don't know why. I just struggled at Michigan. You run so fast getting down into the turns, and there's just not that much banking. I think it's 18 maybe or something. And I struggled there. It was so much different then. I mean, you didn't have to – your whole job as a rookie was to not hit nothing, and stay out. We went to Riverside, and I told Mr. Donnelly, I said, I'm just going to stay on the blacktop and not tear the transmission out. And we ran 10th. We ran 10th in one of the Bristol races. I mean, I got so fortunate to have the opportunity to drive for Mr. Donnelly because it was a smaller team, definitely underfunded, but a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience. And boy, what a good teacher he was, the whole team.
Very nice. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
All right. Joe Rutch, do you have a question for Ken?
I do. Is there a race or a racetrack that is still on your bucket list?
No, I tell you what, that Seneca door is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. I never had a bucket list. I never had a bucket list just never had a bucket list. I was just going racing. It's the weekend or the week, or there's a race someplace, and we're just going to go. We have gotten down to where there's only 2 states we haven't raced in, and that's Hawaii, which is no problem. There's tracks over there. Just don't want to take a weekend and go over there and do it yet. And Rhode Island. Rhode Island, there isn't any racetracks right now. They run an indoor show every now and then. So I might have to make like our first bucket list and try to get those 2 other states. went to the little 500. I've run it the last 3 years with the sprint car just because I thought it'd be kind of neat to do, and that's pretty addicting. That's a lot of fun. So, but never really had a bucket list.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Joe, that's the second person that's mentioned your Seneca door.
Yeah, I kind of like it. It's special to me.
Awesome. He's a hero.
He's my hero. One of them.
Chris Perry, do you have a question for Ken?
Yeah. I'm bummed because you were supposed to come run my local track this year that I race at, and it looks like it's probably not going to happen over up in Canada at Merrittville. Curious, I don't even know if you would know, when you ran the Red Baron car, who designed the 90 on the side of that thing?
One of those, nothing was straight. I'm sure someone up at Schwann's did. The Red Baron car, I really enjoyed the Red Baron car. It looked pretty sharp. That Merrittville race was supposed to be this weekend, I think. We were supposed to run Ashwegan Friday and Merrittville Friday and Saturday, I think. But Schwann's designed a Red Baron car. I thought it looked pretty sharp.
The gorgeous looking car. It's just the 90 was very odd, but I remember.
Yeah, it was.
Cool. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
All right. Kyle McEwen, are you up?
All right. Ken, you starred in one of my absolute favorite TV shows growing up, alongside A.B., Johnny Benson, and those guys, Inside Winston Cup. And I always wondered how that came together, because I remember when it shifted to Speed Channel, from Speed Vision to Channel and everything switched around. But from what I can recall, there were some episodes before that. So I read up something about maybe in the middle of 2001 it came together, but could you give me some background on how that all happened?
We did that show for 10 years. Had a lot of fun doing it. I don't remember exactly how they happened when they first started Speed. They asked us, trying to get some shows together, and they asked us about doing it. And I was driving a Chevrolet, and I guess Pontiac or Mikey was driving a Pontiac then, and Johnny was in a Ford, I think. They had 3 different manufacturers, and we got picked and had a lot of fun doing it. And we'd walk in there. We got it down one night or one day. We did it different times. Usually it was about 11 in the morning. We did it in 59 minutes one time. So an hour show has I believe, if I remember right, it's 46 minutes of content. And we'd go in there, put on the shirt, fold it under, we'd have to tuck it in, sat down, run the mic up. They'd say go, and we didn't retake anything of that. And we'd clock it, see how quick we did it. And the first couple times we'd redo stuff, but then we found out we just screwed it up worse if we redid it. So we had a lot of fun. And my favorite part was, no matter how screwed up you were, if you went in there on Monday morning and sat next to Mikey for an hour, you felt a lot better about yourself.
And honestly, the one-liners in that show, even at 10, 12 years old, I love that. And thanks for your time today, and thanks for being a part of so many great memories for me as a race fan.
Thanks for.
All right, Gary Bryan, you're up.
There we go. I'm up. Hey, Ken, thanks for taking the time. So I'm originally from Terre Haute, and recently you were talking about one of the biggest moments in your career was racing Silver Crown at the action track there, and I was kind of wondering if you could elaborate on that and talk about, times you had at the track there.
Oh, it was probably the biggest day in my biggest single day in my career. I went up there 1980, over and over in a year. Gary Bettenhausen was racing Poncho for the Silver Crown Championship. I went up there to drive Diz Wilson's Champ Dirt car, and it was the first time I got asked to drive a Champ Dirt car, which, I mean, it was a big deal. And we got run over in practice, knocked front axle out of it. And I say we got run over in practice. We hadn't even got up to speed yet. And guy comes sliding in, Joe Saldana, knocked the axle out. My midget car owner, Gene Hamilton owned the midget that I drove, told me, go down and ask Bettenhausen's car's owners, Dale Holt and Timmy Delrose, if I could drive their backup car. So you got to be kidding. I just wrecked a car and didn't even get up to speed. They're here racing with the championship. The backup car still got A.J. Foyt's name on it, where he ran it at the Hoosier 100. And you think I should go ask them if I could drive it? And I said, yeah. Well, Robert Gallus was crew chief, and he was from across the river in Illinois from St. Louis. So he was familiar with us. And practice was over, and they came back and said, yeah, get in it, but hurry up. It drew number 1 to qualify. And Terre Haute, a low number would always be a better qualifying spot. I got in it and went out to qualify, and we had quick time, and Bettenhausen ran second. And, he wound up winning qualified second, and he wound up winning championship that day. We ran 3rd or 4th in the race, and then the phone started ringing, and it was the most important day in my career.
That's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Phil Alloway, do you have a question for Ken?
Yes, I do. It's gonna sound random, but I was just thinking back. In '93, you started on the front row at Watkins Glen, Ken, and you managed to finish 5th that day. But it seemed like, based on the broadcast, you had some transmission problems out there. Were you able to actually get a top 5 without 3rd gear that day?
I'd have to get my 1993 book out and go through it. I kept records from every day, but it'd be hard to believe if we would have lost 3rd gear, it had been right at the end of the race. We had a couple good runs at Watkins Glen. Sat on the front row a couple times with Mark Martin, and that I don't really know that. I don't remember that. I know we broke a shifter handle one time at Sonoma, and we had to use a pair of ice grips for about half the race. And we wound up having a decent race that day, but we kept going to the back until we got it fixed.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Matt Miles, go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Hey, Ken, appreciate the time today. I just wanted to ask you real quick, how hard is the transition to go from dirt to asphalt and back? I mean, you must probably do that changeover a couple hundred times a year, it seems. And just like from a technical standpoint, what do you kind of do to get in the mindset of going, well, okay, I'm in asphalt today, I got to do dirt Wednesday and be back, in either a cup car or whatever you were running at the time, come Friday. So I'm just kind of curious as to, what your mindset is. Do you keep notes? Like, how do you keep that all straight in your head?
When we were doing it a whole lot, it's just kind of second nature. I mean, like Larson now. I mean, he last year he went an outlaw show and then haul butt in the cup car. I mean, it's just you just kind of do it. This job isn't. You don't have to be that smart for this job. They never. I've been very fortunate, drove for some really smart people, but they've never given me an IQ test. You only got a steering wheel and a couple pedals that do anything. It's just not that hard.
We won't mention logging on to Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah. But once you called and got some more technical advice, then we were okay.
Hey, man, I looked it up on YouTube.
Okay.
When in doubt, go to YouTube. All right.
All right, thank you, Ken.
Yes, sir. What's in the background?
That's my old. That's my my old man's car. He ran at a speedway called Dorney Park in Pennsylvania, and they ran in the mid '70s. Yeah, it was a sportsman class.
You know Jimmy Smith?
Yes.
Remember Jimmy? Yeah, they're good friends with Pop and his sons. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So Robbie, go ahead.
Hey, what I was just curious about, you mentioned your time with Donnelly earlier, coming into the Cup Series as a rookie. Obviously, a very well-respected team with a lot of knowledge, a lot of history. But what was it like going from, as you said, a famously underfunded team, stepping up to a team like a Hendrick with all the funds and the completely funded rides for every race? Just curious what your thoughts on the differences were.
It was a pretty big deal. Like we went to the first short track race and came back and, doors caved in a little bit. And I said, damn, sorry about that. And, they're like, hey, this thing's getting new sides after every short track race. I said, you're kidding me. I said, no, use them up, and just putting on tires and testing and stuff. It was a lot to get used to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it seemed like it would be pretty obvious, but it just seems like there's two different worlds in the Cup Series particularly. And obviously getting to the Cup Series is a dream, but getting into the money where things get replaced and parts are new all the time would make a huge difference.
Yeah, and Hendrick, even though they were winning a lot of races then, it was different then, than it turned into later.
Yeah, obviously they were still growing while you were there and certainly beyond, but well, thank you.
Yeah, if I wouldn't have been there, there's no telling how big they were.
Jeff Gordon might have been emotionally scarred.
All right. Fred Petke, do you have a question for Ken?
Yes, I do. Thank you for being here. If you have one race left to run, ever, where would you go, and what kind of car would you race?
Oh, I can't. I don't. I don't know because I'm not planning on just running one more race.
Sure.
Something's going to have to happen if I only run one more race. Not that I don't want to happen. It's going to have to happen. Right. But I don't know. My favorite car is whatever you're driving that night.
Okay.
Last Saturday we won. We went down the road last night and got our ass handed to us bad. So we've been regrouping and we go again Saturday night. So, most important race is the next race.
Yep.
I don't,
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. That works.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Josh Ward, go ahead.
Hey, Ken, your 2003 wreck in the 49 car at Pocono. I remember watching it. It was one of the scariest wrecks I remember watching on TV, but you said it wasn't a big deal. You backed it in and looked worse than what it was. Was that still the case, or were you kind of,
that wasn't bad.
No?
I did make a major screw up there. Went down in there and didn't have any brakes. And I thought, I watched practice yesterday. They run 200 mile an hour right here. And I said, I'm not hitting this thing forward. So I got it turned around, and I'm used to a sprint car. And I tucked all up, and grabbed the steering wheel and got in the ball. And when you hit backwards, you just slam back into the seat. And it's like, wow, that was pretty hard. At least it's over. And then it turned over once, which wasn't bad. And it, you know, it was spinning around. And I said, phew, that wasn't bad at all. And then the fire started coming in. But it wasn't that bad.
Thank you.
All right. Edwin Turner, do you have a question?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, Ken, I got two quick comments as a lead into my question. They're very quick. First of all, Ken, you can't stop racing because you're the only driver left out there that's close in age to me. So just stay out there for me, bud. Two, to show you the importance of branding with sponsorship. My dad will be 95 years old next month, so short-term memory is kind of shot. But he'll say, now what's that pizza that I like? You know, the one that Ken Schrader was sponsored. He still remembers Red Baron Pizza for you. And then that leads me into a question about sponsorship. I'm always interested in how people get it. So Schwann's, did that come about later because of your initial relationship through Red Baron?
Yeah, most definitely. We tend to not put a lot of phone numbers away. Michael Zabel, who was the brand manager for Red Baron, we reached out to him and we wound up making another run at him, and we had the Schwann sponsorship, which was a lot of fun. We eat a lot of Hunt Brothers pizza now. You know, if I eat frozen pizza, I eat Red Baron, but if I go to a gas station or one of those quick shops and get Hunt Brothers pizza and bring back to the shop. But
Gotcha.
yeah, I mean, our sport doesn't work without the sponsorship, and we've been very fortunate to have some good ones, but made a lot of good friends, really good people with those companies. This is our 21st year with Federated Auto Parts now, so I mean, we're just having fun.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Ken.
I think we're going to go ahead and do one last question, and I think we're going to go with Brian Hallman since he wasn't able to do his question earlier. So, Brian, go ahead.
Hey, good. It works now.
Yeah.
I got one little question and one bigger question. The little question is, I was on the back stretch at Talladega when you flipped, and by the time you got your helmet off, you had a knot on your head. What hit you, or what did you hit? Do you have any idea?
Don't have a clue. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at that helmet up on the wall right now, and when I took my helmet off, I had an eye swollen shut, and I mean, just about. And it bounced the helmet off the steering wheel pretty good, but nothing hit my face, but that one eye was just shut.
No.
I raced that Wednesday afterwards. I was pretty sore. I got in the car and stayed in it all night. We run fourth, but I didn't get in and out. But yeah, I don't know why it was swollen shut.
Okay, and the big question is, you decided to do the Indy 500. And had you ever driven an Indy car before and just decided that you're going to do the 500?
Well, you don't decide in sport. You don't hardly anyone decides they're going to do something. Most time, someone calls. Unless you bring the funding, you don't get to decide you're going to do anything. I just we had won the Silver Crown Championship and the Sprint Car Championship, and I got a phone call to run at the Indianapolis 500 from Yasona and Hilda Purcell, and it didn't work out. We were running fast enough, didn't get the chance to. I always said it's the best wreck I ever had in racing because it got me away from the Indy cars and got me thinking about going down south. I started out driving stock cars. I never wanted to drive open wheel cars, but I kind of got sidetracked there in the late 70s and early 80s just because they'd pay you, and went and did that just, so I could eat, and then wound up going back to the stock cars.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir. What are all those models?
I've got a 79 Z28. So I've got my Z28 models back here and my Z28 diecast.
Cool.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thanks,
Enjoyed
Kenny.
it.
Thank you.
All right,
All right,
man. Y'all take care.
Thank you, Mr. Schrader.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. So now that he is off the line or whatever, I did want to talk a little bit about everything that went on yesterday and this morning. Steve, are you there? Or did he leave? All right, I think Steve left. From day one, Steve and I have been trying to figure out a way to get this archive behind me digitized and made available. And I did go so far as to get a quote from a company that digitizes old paper products. And the quote that I got was going to be 60 cents a page, which is, I mean, you multiply 60 cents a page times 32 years of newspapers, and you can do the math. It's kind of crazy. I estimated that it was going to be about $75,000. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's just to get the archive digitized. That's not buying the rights to scene. That's not buying the brand. That's not, building the website or anything like that. That's just simple preservation of everything behind me. So obviously that was going to be prohibitive. So Steve and I have kind of went along this far, and Marcus, I don't know how many of you know who Marcus Lemonis is, but he's the president, CEO of Camping World of Gander Mountain. He's an entrepreneur. So it has been something trying to figure out a way to get all this done. And I don't know if you guys have seen it, but about a month ago, he started giving away RVs on Twitter. And I mean, just one right after the other. And I guess he gives away at least one or two a week. So, I mean, it's, just giving away all these RVs. So I kind of got the idea to just tweet him out of the blue. And yesterday morning, I was in my car. I was fixing to get out to go walk. It was going to be hot. I didn't want to go walk. I was trying to procrastinate. So the last thing that I do before I get out of the car to start walking is I tweet Marcus Lemonis. And I said something to the effect of, I'm trying to get to 5,000 lifetime miles before the end of the year, but it's hot outside, and it's really tough when it's hot. And that was it. I tweeted it, and I didn't think another thing about it. I didn't expect to ever hear anything out of it. But later that night, probably about 9:30, he tweeted me back and said, "Tell me more. Let me know what I need to understand." And of course, I tweeted him back, and one thing led to another, and it kind of snowballed, and everybody else started jumping in and saying what it would mean to have scene digitized. And early this morning, well, probably 10, 11 o'clock, he tweeted back and said that we had a deal, that the scene archive is going to be digitized if I can get to 5,000 lifetime miles by the end of the year. Right now, I'm just a little bit less than 350 miles short. So if you do the math, it's like I would have to average about 11 point something every week to get it done by the end of the year. And of course I do anyway. I do 11 to 13 to 14 anyway. So that's manageable. That's doable. Well, then after he agrees that he will do it if I can get to 5,000 by the end of the year, this afternoon he tweeted and said, "Well, why don't you just go ahead and get it done by the end of the season? by the end of the race season, by the date of the last race, which I got to look and the last race is currently scheduled for November 8th. And so that cuts almost 2 full months off of my timeline. So in order to do that, I will have to do about 16 miles a week, be it running, walking, staggering, stumbling, crawling, whatever. I'm going to get it done. If that's what it, and when he said by the first week, or when he said by the last race, I tweeted him back and I said, if you can also help us get the rights to the Scene brand so we can build the website, you've got a deal. So we'll see what happens there. But it is now my goal to do my 5,000 miles by the last race of the season on November 8th. And I can't tell you how much I'm hoping for a rain out.
In Phoenix.
Because technically that will still be part of that will still be the parameters of the deal. So
yeah.
Listen, it's one thing to work towards this, but it's something else to see it maybe kind of sort of halfway, almost possibly actually happening. But I can tell you this, I'm going to do my very best to live up to that agreement and get this done, because the reaction from Twitter, that was as close to going viral as anything that we had ever done on the Twitter feed. I mean, for this entire afternoon, and I'm still getting notifications about it. So it really kind of snowballed, and I want to do this not only to preserve the newspapers, but I want to do it to honor Steve. I want to do it to honor Deb. I want to honor everybody that I worked with. And so, this archive is too important to be lost. And I thank you guys for being along for the ride. I thank you guys for the encouragement. I will say this, because of everything that happened today, I was not able to tally up all the correct answers for the trivia questions that we've been doing. I was also not able to come up with any new questions, so we won't be doing a trivia contest, but I will get those tallied up, and I will have a winner in time for next week. Probably have to come up with some kind of tiebreaker, but I just wanted to thank you guys for everything that you guys have done for me and all your encouragement. I really, really, really do appreciate it. So,
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We
you,
all
Rick.
appreciate you, Rick.
That's only like 8,000 steps a day, man. You can do it.
Oh yeah.
Well, see, I'm not doing the steps thing.
You're just doing
I've
miles?
got an app on my phone. It's called Map My Run. And I actually, to be honest with you, I actually started using the Map My Run app a little more than a year after I first started walking. So I've probably got, I'd say maybe a couple of 100 miles that I haven't logged. Okay. So I'm not going to cheat and somehow add those into the total. I'm not going to pad it. I'm going to do them all on foot. I'm going to try my best not to use a bicycle, but I'm going to do them the way that I've done the vast majority of the miles. So we'll see what happens. So I was so excited about this morning, and I called my wife, and she wasn't nearly as excited about it. She said, "Don't kill yourself doing this." So, but I was like, "This is important." So listen, that's about it for anything that I've got planned for tonight. If you guys have any questions of me, I'll do my best to answer them. So,
Rick, did Marcus put up the bounty as well?
Yeah, he did.
Part of that bounty?
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, I think he was the one that actually got it started, wasn't he?
I think so.
For the
Yeah,
truck?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure he was the one that got it started.
Yeah.
And you know,
It was Harvick. And
oh
then he
yeah,
came
you're
in
right.
and
You're
yeah,
right.
Harvick.
And then and then Marcus kind of
And
joined in
he
after that.
tagged along, I think.
It was kind of funny. I saw it at that point, and I said, "Man, $50,000, and that could do the vast majority of the newspapers behind me." And so,
what's the total bill that you're looking at?
well, like I said,
Roughly.
I did get one quote from a company called Pioneer Technology Group. They are actually an associate sponsor on Bubba Wallace's car, on the Richard Petty Motorsports car.
Yeah.
And they actually opened an office here in the town where I live in Yadkinville, North Carolina. And so, of course, as soon as they opened, I was immediately on their doorstep trying to figure out something to do. And we went to lunch with one of the sales reps and everything, got to know him a little bit. And I was trying to swing a deal. I was trying to swing a sponsorship deal. I'll give you a sponsorship of the Same Vault podcast for, exchange for doing the, in exchange for, digitizing the papers. And it was at that point that they came to me and, said that we would try to work something out. And then it became, maybe if I could come up with $500 here and there, I would get it done in bits and pieces. What would $500 buy me? Would that buy me a year or two or what? But then we sat down for a come to Jesus meeting, and they gave me a quote of 60 cents a page.
How many pages is it?
Times 32 years of newspapers.
We're just trying to get a rough idea of the real number.
They got pretty thick in the 2000s too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you this. I have actually digitized and scanned the first 5.5 years of newspapers myself. When that very first started, the papers were 12 pages, so that wasn't any big deal. I could knock some issues out like nobody's business. But then I got into digitizing some of the more historic issues, and I digitized the 1998 Daytona 500 issue where Dale Earnhardt won. That was the biggest issue in Scenes history, and that was 140 pages. And it literally took me 2 days.
Yeah.
Wow.
2 full days to digitize that. And so as the papers got longer, it got way more unmanageable to actually do it myself. So something like Marcus Lemonis has offered to do, if I'm able to do this, it's a pretty major thing. Now, $75,000 for him, I would assume that he would try to work some kind of business-to-business deal where he could go to a business that's looking to digitize some old products or sponsorship on the race car or whatever, and get the archive taken care of that way. I don't know. I'm not the businessman. Peter Salino is looking up there. He's got a smirk on his face. He's got the answer. He's just not telling me. It's just what he's wanting to see how big a hole I can dig for myself. So, and I've got him muted, so that's even better. So, look, we, if you're in the market, for an RV, go to Camping World.
Absolutely.
And
he also has a lot of other stores too.
Yeah. And if you could, please get on Twitter and knock out a tweet or two to Marcus and thank him for all this. Maybe we can kind of keep this buzz going. So,
First thing I did when I read it.
Yeah. So, all right.
Yeah, same here.
NASCAR has want to do nothing. They want nothing to do with this.
What's that?
NASCAR wants nothing to do with this. They don't
keep them out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm good with that. Don't get me wrong, because I don't care with the way a lot of things have gone over the years.
Yeah, that opens up another whole can of worms. The scene logo was on the paper beginning about halfway through the 96 season. They never had any ownership in it. They never had any editorial control. It was just a marketing deal where we got a little bit of marketing help from them. We paid them. Well, we paid them. My bosses paid them for the use of the logo, and they paid them pretty handsomely.
I'm sure.
I think at one point it got up into the six figures per year.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
How much do the rights then cost? What, or is that something that's like not even what's like pie in the sky? Haven't even discussed it yet.
We have actually talked to ACBJ. Steve and I have actually talked to ACBJ, American City Business Journals, to purchase the rights or whatever. So we would actually own the same brand, but they have not come back to us with a price. So we're just kind of waiting for that shoe to drop. But the fact of the matter is, it's a brand that has sat on a shelf for 10 years.
Yeah.
And
well, till you get someone throwing $75,000 at it.
Yeah. That wouldn't be towards the brand. That would be just to the digitization of the paper.
Okay.
So,
I think it's very possible if this goes through and you get your miles in, there actually could be some more come in from some of the people, some of the drivers, not NASCAR itself, but Keselowski and Junior. They would probably want to help out when it looked like it was legitimately going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to cross that bridge when we get to it. I'm sure at some point there will actually be a conversation with Marcus Lemonis. Maybe I can get on an episode of his TV show, The Prophet or whatever, and make that happen. I don't know. I'm not a TV star. I'm barely a podcast star.
You're no Steve Wade, sir.
Hey, wait. I think, let's see. Cool. I can mute you. So
what's the old saying? You got a face for a podcast?
Oh yeah.
You got face for radio.
Face for the podcast. So anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all so much. Appreciate your time. I'm going to do this next week. Don't know who the guest is. I got a couple of ideas, so we'll see what happens. But thank you for being here. Okay?
Rick, it's important for you to stay healthy now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get up on me, buddy.
Yeah. Maybe I can get Hallman to come up and just ride in a pace car alongside me and hand me waters and Gatorades and stuff. Brian, you up for that?
I am older than you, but I'll just run along beside of you and hand you water.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Here we go.
All right, guys. Thank y'all.
Thank
you.
Guys,
Thank you.
Thank you again, sir.
Bye.
Thanks, y'all. Night.
Good night.